Welcome to a special Out of Left Field as we're talking about the safety and health of student athletes. Athletes in general, doesn't just have to be high school athletes. I'm joined today by Mike Bannon. He's with the Lehigh Valley Health Network. He's the head athletic trainer in the Hazleton Area School District. And this is a recent thing because the Hazleton Area School District and Lehigh Valley Health Network just came into a partnership together where Lehigh Valley Health Network's sports medicine program will be working with the school district, keeping the student athletes safe. Never really thought about this. I mean, sometimes I think people would see, okay, the athletic trainer runs out on the field when there's an injury and that's how you interact with the kids. But you were talking about really building up trust with the players and I guess relationships. So they know to trust you. I mean, God forbid something happens, but if something happens, so you really have to, you're not just kind of sitting there, you know, just watching and waiting.
No, I think the public a lot just sees us going out on the field and working with kids on the field and doing evaluations on the sidelines. Our job is so much more than that. 90% of what I do is behind the scenes, where it's almost like during games, it's like a calmer time for us. Obviously, we're watching for injuries, but between pregame stretching, heating, nutrition, making sure everyone's getting hydrated before the game, and then after the game as well. So most of our job is behind the scenes in the locker room where most people don't see it.
So I wanted to ask you, because I was looking at the press release for the partnership with Hazleton Area School District and the Lehigh Valley Health Network, and it lists what Lehigh Valley is going to do for the Hazleton Area School District. And at the last thing that's listed is educational services to help student athletes develop lifelong healthy habits. And I wanted to ask you about this because this is a true story. Me and my friends, before one of the soccer games at Bishop Aphey, there was a Pizza Hut near us. It's still there on Route 93 in Hazleton, and we walked there. It was probably about an hour before a game, and we pounded 2 large pizzas and like two 2-liter bottles of Sprite. Now, how exactly do you think that would affect the human body an hour before a soccer game, even at the age of like 16?
Yeah. I mean, definitely not good, especially the way that the body's going to react with exercise. You're going to have greasy food and soda. You're probably going to be gassy during the game, a little stomach irritation. You might even vomit. So that's something we try to stay away from prior to games. Kind of what we do, especially with the football team and the booster club, they buy them a pregame meal. So about 3 or 4 hours before the game is when they eat, and then they'll have a snack before the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how important is that? I mean, I always thought about it of, oh, we were sluggish out on the field that day. I never thought about it from, hey, I might get hurt because I'm not feeling my best. Is that really a thing where it's like, okay, I ate too and something might happen to me?
Yeah, I mean, the mental aspect of sports is just as important as the physical aspect. If you feel physically and mentally that you're not there, something's most likely going to happen to somebody. Whether you cut wrong, you get ran over, you're not paying attention during a play. I
never thought of that too, just being mentally there and okay at a good mind frame because you don't want to make a mistake. Because not only might you blow a play, you might hurt yourself in the process. Do you think this, you played athletics in high school too, do you think kids now are more inclined to, since we have more knowledge about concussions and injuries, they're more inclined to go down and say, hey, I do need help, as opposed to maybe in our generation saying, oh, I'm just going to play through it? Do you think these kids have more knowledgeable?
Absolutely. I think the education's there for them. Prior to each season, we do have a conversation with the team. We sit down in the meeting rooms, wherever we are, and we talk about kind of how we operate. More often than when I started as an athletic trainer 8 years ago. And I'll have kids before practice when they get off the bus and say, hey, my shoulder's bothering me, can you take a look at it? Whereas I know when I played, I just shut up and I played.
Yeah, like I told you, we didn't have an athletic trainer there. It wasn't at our disposal, and I would just, if you felt something, you kind of just did. You played until you couldn't.
Yeah.
And wouldn't, you might say to the coach or something was bothering you. But how important is that maybe, and even when you tell athletes that, to say, hey, if we catch this early, this might save you from being out weeks, months, the season? Is that a good way to look at it?
And what I tell kids is, I say, you don't want to make a 1-week injury an 8-week injury. So sometimes we do have to take a couple of days off and recover, or change the way they're practicing, and monitor them as they go. And they'll be able to still maybe miss a week and still play afterwards. instead of letting it go until it kind of blows up in your face and your season might be over.
And you told me you played golf and wrestling in high school, and I said, I don't know if I've ever heard someone tell me that combination. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I wrestled heavyweight.
So you were a heavyweight wrestler, and then you'd walk out there on the golf course and just were you like a Happy Gilmore guy? Can you drive?
I guess, yeah. One of my buddies was the other heavyweight, so I wasn't very good. I was there just to more have fun and hang out with them and have the whole team camaraderie thing. But I was a good golfer. I actually played at King's College for 2 years. I still play regularly with some friends.
Do you have any success stories I was curious about? Because you said about developing these relationships. I know you probably can't say players' names or, hey, this happened, but is there a moment in your career where you look at, maybe it was the first time you helped a player back and you were like, well, this is why I'm doing this. This is good to see.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, is kind of unfortunate as it can be sometimes, is when the student athlete has that major injury. So your ACL tear, they might have an Achilles rupture. We have the opportunity to work with them every step on the way back. And then once they step on the field and they start performing at a high level again, I'm not a big crier, but sometimes you get a little teary-eyed because you'll see a kid every day for 7 months and you see them crying in the training room because they can't do what they need to do, and then they're performing at a high level.
That's got to be interesting to be a part of that too, to really help them back and make the job really worthwhile. As you mentioned, Hazleton and the relationship with Lehigh Valley, I'm curious about this. This just popped in my head. Did you get to know Mike Magic Majeko? Or did you just hear of him coming in? Because he's this legend in the Hazleton area, was just honored. We have some video I'll show here at the Standard Speaker Award ceremony last year. He got a Lifetime Achievement Award, I believe. Kind of started this in the Hazleton area school district, and now you guys are inheriting this legacy.
Yeah, so I know Magic pretty well, actually. Being at Crestwood, we would always come, obviously football, but basketball. And I had the opportunity to travel a little bit, so I would come up for wrestling. Magic was here for 42 years or 43 years. Definitely big shoes to fill. So I knew him from those experiences. I did my undergraduate degree at King's. So we would come up for wrestling districts, so I met him then. And he's actually still around a little bit now.
Oh, is he really? So he's still...
He'll pop in about once a week to see how we're doing.
Well, I appreciate the time you took today coming and talking about the whole athletic training process. It's an interesting part of local sports that's going on all the time that maybe we don't see or even think about. We're going to learn even more about it on this edition of Out of Left Field. Like I said, we're going to be stopping by a practice with Mike and Mike, with Mike Bannon and Mike Brennan with the Hazleton area football team. So Mike, thank you for this interview, and we will see you again soon out there on the field. We'll be right back with more Out of Left Field. Welcome back to this special edition of Out of Left Field. We just met Mike Bannon, the head athletic trainer for the Hazleton Area School District for the Lehigh Valley Health Network. He did a great job explaining the important role athletic trainers play in local sports and explaining to me why it's a bad idea to have 5 slices of pizza an hour before a game. But to really appreciate what athletic trainers do for our local athletes, we have to see them in action. The head athletic trainer in the Hazleton Area School District, Mike Bannon, is the first to arrive for this football practice. Being an athletic trainer is far from a 9-to-5 job, and it doesn't come with a lot of downtime since Bannon is always in communication with athletes, coaches, and parents.
Like on a regular basis, our communication goes more than just coaches. We're very open with the parents. I tend to give my cell phone number out to a lot of parents so they can get an easy communication. Especially if it's an injury on a Thursday or a Friday night, and I need to follow up with them over the weekend and see how they're doing. Like prime time example today is I had a mom that was texting me at 10 o'clock this morning asking questions about their child. You answer it and the communication's there. Where if you don't have an athletic trainer, most of the time that's not going to happen.
It's not exactly a 9-to-5 job you have.
No. Friday nights we get home at 11 o'clock. There's going to be games where we have a couple more kids banged up. We're doing treatments till almost midnight. There's times where I'll come in on a Saturday or Sunday even to do rehab with kids to get them back. Those are a little more extenuating circumstances for the weekends. But whatever we have to do, we're going to do to get these kids able to play.
Let's step into Bannon's office. Well, technically he has an office at the Hazleton Area High School, and really you can consider this his office as well. You know what, whatever, let's run with it as we spend a not-so 9-to-5 day at the kind of sort of office of Hazleton Area School District Head Athletic Trainer Mike Bannon. You may not factor in athletic trainers when you're trying to calculate a team's or a player's success, but they're an important part of the equation.
He has a lot of experience, and we ask a lot from Mike. We rely on him quite heavily for the well-being of our players, and always looking to do things better. I think that's part of coaching and part of what we're trying to do to improve the program. So obviously he's a resource we have to continue to use.
Here's an example of what Bannon and other athletic trainers bring to the table.
We see trends with injuries. This year's been a little bit with the hip, so we did modify their functional warm-up and their stretching from what they were doing in the off-season. So far it's been helping. I think it's going to continue to help. We sat down as a staff probably about week 2, week 3, and talked about things that we could change, eliminate, add for the warm-ups. We've done that. We've put in some things that I learned about and that I like, and kind of everybody put their input in and modified it a little bit. And knock on wood, injuries have been relatively down from a muscle standpoint at this point of the season.
Just like a coach, it helps for the athletic trainers to get to know the players. Bannon says he feels like he's a part of a family here at Hazleton Area. During a special teams drill, he checks in with a member of that family. Along with getting to know the players, Bannon also has to know their history with injuries.
The way we have it set up, when you have that relationship with the kids, you know what their past injuries are. So there is times where I say, Coach, hey, that might be a good idea for this kid. Or he needs to take a step into that pass, whatever it is. Kind of one thing that I look for, especially for tackling, is making sure they're keeping their head up so they can see what they're hitting and they minimize the risk for head and neck injuries.
Even if you're only vaguely interested in sports, and even if you've never dribbled a basketball or kicked a soccer ball, you probably know that stretching is important. But did you know this?
You can't overstretch if your muscles aren't strong enough, where hyperflexibility can lead to an increased risk of injury. The more muscular you are, you're okay stretching a little bit more, but generally we do like injury stretching. Each stretch, hold it for 30 seconds 2 or 3 times, whereas what these guys do before practice are more of a lighter quick stretch and then a functional warm-up.
Bannon changes gears after dropping that stretching information as he becomes a bit of a fan.
This is one of my favorite things at practice that we do every now and then. It's called Big Cougar. So he has 2 people go up against each other with their helmets touching, so there's no impact head to head, and it's 1 versus 1. So they kind of see who the big dog is. It's definitely cool, it's fun. Kids love it. They normally get 2 kids similar size, normally varsity starters, and kind of go at it a little bit.
While Bannon hopes he's bored during practice, here's what happens if there's an injury.
The kid hurts his shoulder on a Friday night. We modify what they're doing for practice for the week. So they're still getting their workout in, they're still doing reps, they're still doing mental reps. Or for somebody who mainly plays on the defensive side of the ball, we'll have them practice defense, but then offense will bring them in and do rehab. And so far it's worked pretty well to try to get them still involved and ready for Friday, but sometimes obviously you have to tone back what you're doing during the week to get them as close to 100% as you can.
During rehab, they try to keep the athletes as engaged as possible.
In rehab, if I have more than one person, we make it a competition between the 2 of them. One thing I like to do is if it's a balancing exercise, I'll have them throw a ball at each other, and if one drops it, they start over. So it kind of puts that extra pressure to try to mimic the competition. Because as an athlete, you're just going to have that natural instinct to win and compete. Obviously, we have to do the simple exercises. It's kind of like practicing a golf swing. You still have to go to the range and swing, but some days you got to change it up. I know yesterday we had a couple guys. We went down to the weight room instead, so we still did exercises and strengthening for that body part, but had the music going. There's 3 of us down there. They're doing different exercises to get better. So you do have to change it up, and kind of the more you do that, and kind of they don't know what they're going to do that day, so they're excited to get there and see what they're doing.
What does Bannon do at the end of practice? I don't know. I had to leave. I was hungry. I told you it could be long days for athletic trainers as they work to keep players healthy and on the field. Next, we take a trip to the Lehigh Valley Health Network Health and Wellness Center to talk with a local doctor who helps athletes get back into action after an injury. Welcome back to this special edition of Out of Left Field, talking about the Lehigh Valley Health Network teaming up with the Hazleton Area School District to make sure that their athletes there stay safe on the field, and if there is an injury, get them back out on the field as quickly and safely as possible. I'm joined now by Dr. Richard Canlas with the Lehigh Valley Health Network, and Doctor, this is the fanciest segment I think we've ever done with Out of Left Field. We have this beautiful fireplace behind us here at the Lehigh Valley Health Network Health and Wellness Center. I'm wearing a jacket. That's a rarity, big occasion. Thank you for taking some time in the middle of the day to talk about this. Now, Dr. Canlas, you have a sports background and are very passionate about this. And he's actually been on Out of Left Field before, and if you want that information, it's a very interesting discussion. We talked about specifically concussions that day, and that is from Out of Left Field on November 16th, 2018. Guess what? Just go to our website, ssptv.com, search for it. You'll find it there. In that episode, we talked about MMI golf, concussions, and Hazleton Area High School alumni softball. I keep saying athletes get an injury and maybe don't want to say, but are athletes maybe more attuned to saying something because they do know their body and they don't want to be out for 8 weeks, or is it just personality?
No, a lot of times because, you know, that's where you struggle. I mean, you can talk, and I'm sure you can give me stories about whether it's yourself or your former teammates where they didn't tell the coach or whoever they were hurt. You know, that's where, you know, it's like the depth chart. You know, if I'm sitting out, the guy behind me may take my job, but that's where, you know, you have to have you build that rapport with the athlete to where they will come to see you. But also, we take the non-verbal clues. We can sometimes see when somebody is struggling. I mean, you can see them gimping on the field or maybe shaking their elbow after they throw. So we're looking at different visual cues, like with pitchers and what have you. I'll oftentimes talk to their catcher, you know, how's their velocity? Do you notice anything different? So we'll find things. Or you talk to the non-athlete. By that, you talk to the parent, you talk to the coaches. A lot of times you gotta, you know, it's almost like being a detective. You got to look around not only for the athlete, because other people can give you important information too.
So you guys are watching sports with like a sixth sense, kind of looking for these different things that...
When I watch a athletic event now, I'm usually not watching the event per se. I'm like, with football, I'm usually focusing on the line and the quarterback, because all the dirty work goes in there. So when the pass goes downfield, oftentimes I'm looking behind the play to see, you know, is there anybody injured? So you don't see the game like when you watch it on Sunday, you know, whichever team is your favorite. We're kind of looking to see where the injury might happen. Oftentimes we'll talk, or we'll start to move on the field because we see the injury coming even before it, you know, happens.
So people are cheering at Harmon Guy Stadium on a Friday night for a long pass touchdown. You're still staring at the offense.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm looking, you know, I see the pass go downfield, but then I always come back because a lot of times there's stuff that goes on behind the play, or you see the block happen on the lineman. He goes down immediately while the throw's being, you know, sent downfield.
You hit on this before the interview a little bit. You said oftentimes we forget that these are student athletes and students, and also high school kids. It's not only important for them to get back on the field, but they have to go live their lives and take tests, and, you know, whenever they grow up, do whatever they have to do. So I guess that's part of the job too. You don't want them going to school hurt and just probably being miserable because of it. I'm sure this all goes together.
Correct. And what's nice about that, like I said, having a sports medicine team with the athletic trainers at the high school, you can do the rehab at the high school without having to interfere with, parents' work hours, or students pulling them out of school per se. Now there are after hours by all means, but oftentimes there could be financial issues where they can't afford the physical therapy, or maybe transportation. I don't have transportation to get there or what have you. So it's nice to have the athletic trainers where you're right on site, so you can do your rehab there under the appropriate supervision. Oftentimes you'll be given exercises to do at home. Number one, are you doing them? Number two, are you doing them appropriately? Just because you're doing them doesn't always mean you're doing them right. So you can sometimes be causing more harm than good. The trainer can oversee that to make sure that you're doing them appropriate so that you can continue them at home.
We've talked about, and obviously the athlete's health is number one, but I was kind of seeing some of the benefits that coaches, and I mean in the win-loss column and performance could see from this too, just talking with Mike about, hey, Coach Brennan's really open to me saying, do this maybe in the off season just to keep your players healthy. I mean, this could be beneficial from a performance standpoint as well.
As important, if not more so, we do the treatment and rehabilitation of the athlete, but our goal is the prevention. We would prefer not to have an injury. Our goal as a sport, we always say before we take the field, our goal is not to have to go out on the field, for stuff. We want a clean game. That's the ideal for a sports med physician and the trainers, is to have no injuries. But we're there to basically provide the appropriate, assessment and treatment to make sure everything's A-okay. But yeah, if we can do things preseason, postseason, to keep them healthy from a strength standpoint, flexibility standpoint, or if they're having recurrent ankle issues or shoulder, we'll assess where their detriments are and basically do a rehab program to help them in the future to prevent that from reoccurring.
So maybe I should start the show there with a little disclaimer. People say, oh, I think the show's going to be all about injuries. Really, it's about preventing injuries.
Prevention is much. That's as important, because if you can prevent it, you don't have to worry about the rehab or the treatment. Looking at this, you look at the athletes, both the girls and the guys nowadays, compared to when I was playing, they're bigger, they're faster, and the thing is oftentimes they're what I find with most athletes is they're strong, but they're weak in the core and they have flexibility issues. So that's where you see all these strains and sprains, be it a hamstring or what have you. The ideal would be is to have everything balanced, not to be just strong, with the body part, but be strong with the core, because the core is where everything with an athlete starts from, but also with the flexibility. Like I tell people, I always use the image of a rubber band. If that rubber band is cold and tight and all of a sudden you go to explode like a sprint, you're going to tear that hamstring. So if we have that balanced where it's nice and flexible, we're not going to get those injuries.
Well, thank you for your time. I know we're in the middle of a day here, so I definitely appreciate it. And also, I got an education from all this on athletic training and keeping athletes healthy. I hope you did too at home. And please go back, watch that past episode with Dr. Canlas of Out of Left Field. It was really interesting stuff about concussions if you do have a kid playing sports, or if you are playing sports, or if you say everyday life. These are important things for everybody. And he's right here, Lehigh Valley Health and Wellness Center. This is where people could find you if they're interested, they have questions, they want to come see you. Thank you for watching this special edition of Out of Left Field with the Lehigh Valley Health Network, working with the Hazleton Area School District. I'm Ken Cara. Take it easy, everyone.